From King's Landing all the way up to Winterfell, the only two locations we've really seen. This is Casterly Talk. I'm Ken Napzok, and tonight, I know it was an episode that a lot of people are working through things, or either you really enjoyed, you hated, or you're taking a breath and trying to figure some stuff out, which I think is also part of being a fan. But it's just me and Andrews Cabrera. How are you, friend?
Good, man. I'm good. It's just us two.
Just us two. The reason being, Rachel Cushing and Lon Harris both really, really wanted to be here, but the realities of life kicked in at the very last minute, and work got the better of them today. They both send their apologies. They really want to talk about this episode, and as you can imagine, but that's the life out here, Ace. When we're podcasting, we're not getting paid millions. You got to work.
Yep. That's life.
That's life. That's life. But I couldn't be happier to discuss this with you, as I have always been happy to discuss things like Star Wars and Game of Thrones with you. You always bring some great insights, thoughts, perspectives, and I think you and I are just going to pull up, have a whiskey. We'll all have a whiskey. You'll have some water. Or actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to have water tonight. And we're going to talk about this episode, Season 8, Episode 4, The Last of the Starks. David Nutter returns to direct, a script by Dan and Dave, D.B. Weiss, and David Benioff. All right. We're here, Ace. How are you?
Good. I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk about this episode, man.
Okay, good. I'm excited too.
It's a flaming hot episode on the Twitter sphere.
Oh yeah. I'm having I want to be honest. I want to be honest, and I think I'm going to be honest with you and our listeners. I'm very excited to talk about this, and I love doing Casterly Talk, and I especially love talking about things with you. I am slowly finding it harder to enter these fandom discussions outside of the nice, comfy walls of this podcast studio. And I last night made the decision to mute every name, hashtag, title, word, anything I can find that's Game of Thrones related.
That's bold.
Yeah, to secure maybe my enjoyment for the last couple episodes. And that doesn't mean I don't want dissenting opinions or another point of view or to learn from someone else's perspective. Doesn't mean any of that, Ace. Just meant my stress level's rising.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like not enjoying being part of this media discussion world this week and last week, and going back to December 2017 with The Last Jedi. And I had to take a emotional protective measure.
Yeah, of course.
Is that okay?
100% okay.
Okay.
Especially after last week, which I'm still trying to get over, but I still don't think I am over how people saw, the same episode I did and came away with those feelings.
Yeah.
I still feel so confused. And I openly said that on Twitter.
Good for you.
Saying, hey, did we see the same episode, guys? First of all, I could see it very clearly.
I could see very clearly.
Second of all, we just saw a medieval zombie dragon fight taking the place in the snow with magic and with battles. I've never seen something so nerdy in my life on TV that everyone watched. And it was incredibly directed. It was incredibly shot. And we're arguing about it? Like, if you're a nerd, I am just taking that as a win. That's a W right there. Here,
this isn't about Game of Thrones, but you're a smart cook. I want to get your thoughts on this because you've been around this spirit. I mean, when did you start interning for the Schmoes?
January 2015. January 2015.
But that's still a long time ago.
Yeah, it's forever.
Prior to Force Awakens. 2011, 2012 is when I really started getting into this world. And it was this promise. And I do give AfterBuzz and Maria Menounos and Kevin Undergaro a lot of credit for them going, what if we launched like a ESPN of after shows? Because people love doing that, right? I give them a ton of credit. Are they the sole creators of the genre? No, but I really do give them a ton of credit for that. It was a promised land of all those things you loved in the shadows. You get together and talk about it. And doesn't mean you're always going to love it. You're going to talk about it with the spirit of, Andres, do you love Game of Thrones? I love too. Do you like that one part? Oh, you didn't? But I like this part. But yay! Nerds have won. And it has turned into a battlefield and a war zone.
Yes.
That is I will admit, wearing. I mean, this is maybe a depressing way to start this show.
No, I've been in that world since I was a child. I remember being, I think, 8 or 9 years old and being on the Star Wars forums. It started with Star Wars. That's where my entire love of fandom essentially came to life.
Yeah.
But it started in the Star Wars forums. I don't know if you remember forums back when people had forums and conversations about certain moments. And for me, it was Star Wars. I was like 8 or 9 and discovering the internet. That's the first thing I would do on the internet was discuss Star Wars with 30-year-old men, and I'm a 9-year-old kid.
God bless you.
But essentially, yes, fandom, I've said it a million times and I'll say it again. The idea of internet and fandom is one of the greatest parts of fandom, is the fact that you can be someone living in Arizona and Alabama and whatever state you are or whatever country you're in, and be surrounded with people who are maybe into soccer, maybe into football, maybe into something else, but not quite the nerd thing that you're into, or not quite at the level that you're into it. That's what the internet provides. It provides a conversation. YouTube, forums, whatever you want, Reddit, whatever it is, it provides a certain fandom conversation. And now it's turned into, I mean, obviously, I still feel like a lot of it comes in a very political angle. Whether people want to agree with that or not, that's still, I think, a lot of it.
It's definitely
where it's like, you know, we're at war. Raise your swords. If you like this, then you are anti-God or like it gets really extreme. Or anti-art, or don't know what you're talking about, or your opinion is invalid. That kind of extremism is hitting not only our political atmosphere, but also even our arts and entertainment atmosphere, where it used to be where we could enjoy this stuff together, Ken.
It really did. It really, and look, you could choose the lane to stay in of, you know, Star Wars. Everyone knows I'm very positive and all those things. And again, I want to make it clear. It's like, I love talking about this stuff, and I'm not, you know, Casterly Talk will go on even after this show ends, because we're going to start looking towards the prequel series. We're going to look deeper into the books and all those kind of things. It's a weird time, man. And let's dive into this.
100%.
Okay. And I'll start here. I'm even afraid to tell you, and I don't know why. I really love this episode.
Okay.
Yeah. I really, really loved it, and I don't know what to do, Ace.
Dang. Sorry to hear that, Ken. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I also like this episode.
Okay.
I do see a lot of issues.
Sure. Sure.
Very much at the forefront, especially logic issues. I feel like a lot of these issues come from a macro scale of writing, and I know essentially what it is on a production level of HBO and the condensing of this season, what that means essentially, and declaring this to be 8 seasons, declaring this to be 6 episodes. Essentially, what it does is it limits potential of writing. I think part of this has to do with getting away from the books. A lot of it, essentially, the issues I have and the issues a lot of people have is that it's too quick. Maybe these things would happen over the span of George's books.
Yeah.
But if we had more time, I feel like we could get a lot better character motivations and character interactions that happened in this episode that weren't bad. We're just a little rushed. But that's it. I like this episode. I really did like this.
Gotcha. Get out of my studio. No, I think that's very wise, and I wouldn't expect anything less from you. You're a wise soul, which is why your quote is on the back of my book, Why We Love Star Wars, by the way. Yeah, and I feel that. I actually really do feel that. I was talking to Joseph Scrimshaw, my Force Center co-host today at Off Air, and we're going to get him on Casterly Talk soon, because the same insights he has on Star Wars, he really has on Game of Thrones. And he said something too, you know, we're talking about George R. R. Martin and not finishing the books, and I'm convinced, I try not to get into conspiracy theories, I'm convinced George is sitting back in New Mexico going, I'm changing what they did. Where I think he was more on board in the beginning. And then now he's like, and I think he's riding high as the king of nerddom, and he's got an ego, and who doesn't? I have an ego. You probably don't. You're a nice guy. I think that's happening, quite 100%. Frankly. But Scrimshaw said this. He goes, because he's been a fan of this season, as I have too, a lot, like big fans of it. And he says, I think Dan and Dave and the team, the whole team, mind you, it's not just them, are having to come up with solutions. and George has yanked away the map, and because people are aware of that, like I think you wouldn't disagree. Some of the best stuff in season 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 aren't in the books at all. So Tywin and Arya, the scene, and I'm talking individual scenes, not necessarily always storylines, but even storylines. Bronn, Bronn's a good example. I'll start with that. Sure. Bronn, beyond season 1, is almost entirely brand new. Because they realize they have Jerome Flynn. And George R. Martin, if you find on YouTube, has interviews where he's like, well, you can get a good actor, and suddenly the character, you got something else to do with it. Because in Bronn in the books, poof, he's gone. He's just, he got a castle, he's a knight now, see ya. By season 2, they have this great character that everyone loves. And so now, I loved the scene with Bronn and Jaime and Tyrion, because I loved them together, but I didn't, I'm like, okay, we'll see where it goes. Because otherwise, it's a little awkward. Like, he just shows up, punches them, leaves. So I get that criticism. But I think that's an example of he's there. Mm. And if you kill Bronn, do people go, well, that was a waste? Because we loved him in 1 and 2 and 3. You know what I mean? And I'm not getting into specifics, but I actually really do think it aligns with your point a little bit, where they have to start wrapping things up. And to jump ahead, like the Rhaegal incident, like I loved it, but I was like, oh, okay, so we have to gear shift real fast, and maybe the show feels robbed at times to people because of that.
Yeah, I think so, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the separation from the books, and I think it also has a lot to do with. I listen to the Ringer podcast, and they the Watch specifically, and they talk a lot about Game of Thrones. The first episode, the discussion they had, and it was a very interesting discussion because they essentially said the art form is different. It's different writing a book and having as many pages as you want, as much time as you want with these characters in a POV perspective is so significantly different than a television show where you have to light, direct, cast, extras, music, like all this stuff is so different of a medium that it requires a different level of creativity. Give George all the credit, but he probably couldn't direct one of these episodes. So it's a different art form and a different medium. And how many times, Ken, have you and I, maybe you're on the opposite spectrum of this, but come out of a movie. Essentially, I've seen a couple movies with my friends.
Right.
See the movie, and I'm like, man, that was great. And my buddy turns to me, he's like, oh my God. The book was so much better. How many times have you heard the book was so much better? Oh, the book is...
All the time.
And it's like, I guess, man, but I haven't read the book, and I like that movie. So stop being like, oh my, how could you like that? In the book, it's like, bro, they have 2,000 pages in that book in a 2-hour movie.
And George intentionally goes off. Intentionally. Like, you want to talk about, I know Marvel's great because they have a plan. George R. R. Martin has a faint idea of a plan he kind of remembers.
Yes.
And he has admitted to, well, book 4 was supposed to be this, and then I decided to take this off there. Sure. So he's just barfing up words. I contend Clash of Kings, book 2, I know you haven't read them yet, right?
I have.
You have? No, sorry, you have. Lon hasn't. I apologize. Yeah. Clash of Kings, second book, real good. I think the second season's better than that second book. Ooh. I really do, because it gives me Tywin and Arya. It gives me just some real quick stuff with the Night's Watch, where Ghost is the one that finds the obsidian daggers and everything. That's not bad, but I like that Sam and everyone so. But yeah, the book thing is it's kind of played out, man.
It is.
It's played out, because you got to have some common sense, quite frankly. Sure. Like Lord of the Rings, the first 3 Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies are 3 of my most favorite things ever. I haven't read the books, and one day I might. But my old boss. So I read the books once a year. Those movies sucked. Maybe from his perspective, he's not wrong. I'm sorry Tom Bombadil isn't there, but they're different, man.
Yeah.
They are different.
But what's distinct about D&D and what made them so famous, because let's face it, they're superstars now.
They're now, and they were nobodies before.
Yeah. Is the way that they did the show was that it was very close to the material.
Right.
That's what got book readers onto the show, is the fact that people like it when you honor the original property, whether that be comic books or whether that be a book. Like, if you can somehow stick to the main themes of the book, you can make a good show because it's good material. What George wrote is good.
Yeah.
If you stick to it, and that's what they learned. They learned, like, oh, all we have to do is follow these beats, add a little bit of extra spice with some
Right.
great actors, and you got yourself a good show.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big element in it.
It's huge, and knowing the books and the histories and the maps that I study and everything that you study and everything, I think it adds wonderful flavor to the show. I think at just some point you have to take that breath and realize it's a different world, and they're playing. To me, this season reminded me that by the way, we never really heard the prophecy of Azor Ahai. We heard the prince that was promised. Yes, it's there, but it's not like the book that has, 12 million chapters and words on the Azor Ahai prophecy, so they can maybe do it a little differently. And I'm getting a little beat down by some of the book readers, and I'm one of them. But I just think High Fidelity is one of my favorite novels by Nick Hornby, and High Fidelity, one of my favorite movies with John Cusack, and they're the same and they're completely different. And I don't know why that's a problem, but you're right too. It's not completely unfair to be like, hey, some things
It's not,
changed.
because there is a lot of convenience in this episode, and a lot of stuff that you're like, oh, that's a huge leap of logic. Like last season, we had a lot of that, where a lot of people complained, and I was very much one of them, Ken. About a few of the logic leaps, and my God, Ken, is there some logic leaps?
Well, let's dive in. I know we're talking long here, and we don't, we're going to take a break at some point here, but let's dive on in here to just let's start with a lot. We don't need to go scene by scene. Got the great funeral that starts it. I thought that was emotional. Danny whispering to Jorah without us hearing it. I loved that little touch. Things like that. Sansa confirming, hey, getting to say to Theon, you were a Stark, which she didn't get to say it before. So, but let's skip a lot about that and go to some of the big logic leaps. I think it's a great starting point.
Let's do it, man. Let's go right to Rhaegal, which is heartbreaking.
Rhaegal, yeah, it is.
Absolutely heartbreaking. But my God, Ken, if I am flying on a dragon and I am way up in the air, am I not going to see some ships coming at me? That's the first thing that came to my head. How do you not see that coming? That's the first question I have.
Okay.
The second one is the fact that it's so convenient, man. The fact that Rhaegal gets like 3 or 4 bolts
right in the head,
through the head and right through the body, and Danny is able to fly away. I just, that was so frustrating to me, is the fact that I really did feel like it was more of a moment of shock than necessarily it was. It was essentially to get Danny to get rid of the dragons, which I feel like that's what they're leaning towards, is to get rid of the dragons. Which is fine, but I don't know, man. That bummed me out. Rhaegal's death. Maybe it's just because I'm heartbroken and I like Rhaegal.
No. This has come up. This has come up in other places. Yeah, I totally get it. Totally get it. I have no counter, and there's no counter needed. That's what you felt. I think the shock worked on me. Grace and I were watching it, and don't ever
broke my heart.
If an animal is killed in front of Grace,
a fictional animal.
A fictional animal is killed in front of Grace. We got to deal with it. Yeah. We got to press pause and deal with it. And I think I was pulled into that part of it. Said, headcanon sometimes is valuable, sometimes it's useless.
Sure.
I don't know. There was a cloud cover. I don't know, but that is what a lot of people go to about hey, she should have seen it. And then, she gets away. She banks right, man. I don't
Sure.
But
I will forgive it, but at the same time, it was definitely a heartbreaking moment, and it was definitely a moment where you didn't feel like the reward, and I guess that's part of it too.
Okay. Go with that.
Like Euron was, Euron is now a dragon slayer, and it's like out of everyone, like if it was Bronn, I'd be like, yo, that's cool, but Euron.
Euron's pretty despicable.
Yeah, I did feel like that, having that title on his arm and having that title, added to his name, just adds the little insult to injury, salt in the wound kind of situation.
I get it too. And going to like some of the shock, because there's great shock moments early in Game of Thrones, is we work up to it. I think the Ned Stark shock is a way different thing than arrow out of the sky. So I think you're right there too, where I think it's just that, and that is going to the top of the show. It's so funny you bring that up, because that's what I was going to say we got to get to a solution, and the solution is Rhaegal's got to die. Cool. It happens here. And I think that's where that goes to your top of the show point of like, we got to move quickly.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
And that's not fair. You said it. It's not.
It's not, and yet
Not fair.
I still kind of I forgive it, to be honest. I think essentially what this episode did was give Danny the storyline of one bad day of pushing her over the edge. No,
Daenerys Targaryen's no good, very bad day.
yeah, or
no
like
good, bad day.
the Joker, just one bad day will push you over the edge kind of situation with
Gotcha.
the Killing Joke in Batman, where she lost Jorah. She lost one of her children, and then obviously, spoilers, at the end of the episode, she loses her best friend, Missandei.
Yeah.
That all those dominoes is D&D basically. When I say D&D, I mean Dan
and Dave.
Dan and Dave, riding Daenerys into the Mad Queen storyline, into the Mad Queen character arc. Because if you push enough dominoes, you can push even Batman can go over the edge. Is essentially the theme of the comic, and that's what we saw this entire episode is bad thing after bad thing after bad thing to the point where it's like, you know what, Jakaris.
Yeah.
Burn it all.
Burn it all. And so, okay, so let's go there next. This is why I don't like always going scene by scene. In Casterly Talk, we generally don't, but other shows have to, and I don't argue with the format. I think one of the more powerful for scenes, because you're 100% right with this Danny thing they're doing here, and where it goes, we'll see. But what I loved about it, here's what I loved about it. One of the most powerful things was up top. I loved all the stuff with Tormund, and Dan and Dave got their cameo in there and everything.
I saw, yeah,
and I saw it live. I know. I didn't notice it.
I
watched the doc part and saw it and confirmed it. I wasn't like, that's Dan and Dave. I was like, those guys look really weird.
And I was too busy looking at the Starbucks cup.
I missed the coffee cup.
Yeah.
God bless it. But when Tormund's basically describing Danny, they fought, they would die for our people, and they ride on top of a dragon. Who would do that? A king would. And Danny's over here like, cool. And that's where it started. And then plus the Jorah thing. But just I was like, she ain't getting the credit. And I loved, we'll talk about Missandei in a little bit, but one of the more overlooked lines, but important lines, was last week when Missandei is listening to Sansa kind of rag on Danny in the crypts, and Missandei's kind of like, yeah. Oh, I'm paraphrasing the line, but Danny hasn't done anything good. Good point, and walks away. I wish I should have written the quote down from episode 3, but to me, that's Missandei's 100% right. Like, that stupid dragon lady just freed a bunch of people and saved a country, is here to help your ass. I thought so. It's all so now. And I'm sorry, I'm monologuing. Now, Danny might be the Mad Queen, but now I'm like, I think she has reason to be, and I love it because it makes it viable for me.
Yeah.
That even the Missandei thing, I was watching with Grace, and when Missandei says Dracarys, Grace goes, "What a badass bitch," about Missandei, and how it's like, don't listen. I'm going to burn this place down.
Yeah. It's funny because I forget you're a Danny fan.
Well, but I've always been, but Ace, I've always been disappointed in her.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
like when she started talking to Gendry in this episode, I was like, Danny,
oh my,
come on,
are you kidding me?
Chill out. But I've been around.
When she came back, it was great. It was a great moment.
But you know what it reminded me? Because she's trying hard. Clearly, she's trying hard. I promise I'm going to let you talk here, Ace. She's trying hard, and I've seen other supervisors or bosses, people I've worked for, or people who have worked underneath me as supervisors, mid-shift, underneath me. Like, all right, I'm going to try to be nice to everybody. And then they do it in the wrong way where you're like, oh no, that's not the way. And here she is, she's dressing down Gendry. And I think she means to be nice. And it was just like, so it's part of what you're saying though.
Yeah.
And I do have some frustrations with her. I mean, going back to season 3. So I don't know, but for me, but I'm not necessarily rooting for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not rooting for her. I think the thing this episode did is George R. R. Martin, I've talked about this before, says Tolkien never wrote about Aragorn's tax policies, meaning he wrote to the point of victory. We all celebrated and yub-nub, Ewoks danced in a peace orb. You don't see the next day when Aragorn has to run the kingdom. And I think this episode is the battle was won in episode 3. Yay, feast. Now we got some more problems. And everyone who suggested an answer in this episode, I was like, that's right. But every one of those answers conflicts. And now I love it. And that's Game of Thrones to me. Ace, I'm not going to talk for the next hour. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I am very much not on Team Danny.
which is a fine place to be.
Yeah, because I always felt like here's my thing. She always claims to, every time someone asks her why do you want this Iron Throne? It's my destiny. She literally said it this last episode. Right. Destiny.
Okay.
What does that mean? Like, what do you mean destiny? Like, more and more, she never gives a good reason why. It's my blood right. It's my destiny. I was born for this. My family died for that. You give no reasons why you should inherit this Iron Throne. What is the purpose of it? Why you want to be there? And she claims that she was, I think she even has a line where she was like, I'm put on this earth to defeat tyrants.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a very ironic moment in that scene, because it's like the irony of her saying that statement and her kind of being a tyrant with her speeches. I personally feel like she said it last night in last night's episode, where that look that they gave Jon, the reason why they can't give her that look isn't because she hasn't done all these great things. It's because she's done all these great things in a different country. She was in Essos. The people of Essos love her. She is the ruler of Essos, for lack of a better term. But here in Westeros, they don't know her. She didn't grow up here. She doesn't have any family here. She doesn't know Westeros. She doesn't know the culture. She doesn't know the people. She's not from here.
Yeah.
Why would they give her that look? Why is she seeking something when she is a foreign ruler, essentially? I think that's the confusing part, as me as an audience member trying. I very outspokenly have declared for Team Sansa now, especially when it comes to this interaction, because Team Sansa makes those points. She says, why are you here? This doesn't make any sense. Why do you want to rule the North? You don't even know the North. Like, let us have the North. And she's like very defiant against that. And Sansa also makes all the rational points in this episode where she's like, we need a rest. We need some time. We need food. We need to ask these soldiers if they're willing to do this battle and not just force them to do stuff because they're your property or they're your soldiers. For someone who's the breaker of chains, she seems to be very keen on always having people do her will. I think that, I mean...
No, finish.
Yeah, I think that's my issue with Dany, and I feel like what this finale is leading up towards is Mad Queen versus Mad Queen. Cersei is crazy. She'll probably kill everyone and burn the city to get her property.
Right.
Dany is going crazy. She's not there yet, but after this last shot of Dany, essentially the creators of the show were telling us, oh, she's going crazy now because they killed everyone she loves. How can she not go crazy?
It reminded me of the Reese Witherspoon scene in Election when the music would play.
That's exactly what it was. I was going to make that same joke because it is that scene where it's like, you know what? All the dominoes have fallen towards Mad Queen for Dany. She's kind of has no choice but to go Mad Queen. And so now we have two Mad Queens who are willing to kill everyone, burn the city alive to claim their rightful prize. And I think what we're getting at is now Jon and his interaction with Dany reacting to that. Yeah. And Jaime, especially towards the end of the episode, kind of coming back to Cersei and him reacting to that.
Okay, yeah.
I said Jon versus Dany, Jaime versus Cersei is kind of the dynamic that they're building towards.
Which I love. I'll say, I mean, quite frankly, I haven't chosen. I'm like Walder Frey. I'm going to wait. I'm going to show up late in the fight here. I think Sansa. I'm not necessarily Team Dany. Like I've said on the show, I think she's going to die. What you're describing, I think, is 100% right, and maybe follow me here. Proof that I think they're doing a good job with it. How do you get people to root against her, especially people who've been inspired? I'm talking fans out of the story who watch the show have been inspired by her going back to season 1 because she's overcome a lot of things and she's an inspiring character to a lot of people. How do you turn anyone against her? That's tough, and I think it's working in a way because not that I don't see her as a mad king, burn them all quite yet. No, quite yet. Meaning,
sure.
I think her father went down a different path. I see her as a little like Kylo Ren, follow me here, where I look at Ben Solo and I think there's some reasons. I don't excuse it. Because I think a lot of people think that I'm excusing behavior in real life. This is a fictional character I'm talking about. I look at Kylo Ren and go, your mother sent you off. Your weird space uncle tried to kill you. And your father was an absent father for a lot of your life. And you didn't know your place, and you found your grandfather, who you don't know the true story. You worship the evil part of the thing you know. And maybe there was a slippery slope you were walking on. I think Dany's got a lot of that going in her head. I think it was very key. I think we talked about it where for last week, I think maybe Lon, I want to give him some credit if it was him saying, we heard her talk about Viserys for the first time in a positive light. And so I think Sansa's the best one to rule because Jon, he don't know nothing. We'll talk about that. But I think Sansa has learned from everybody. And I think again, follow me. I think she'd be a good version of Cersei, if that makes sense at all.
Makes total sense.
I don't know.
I am 100% on board with that. And it's crazy coming from a guy who's the biggest Littlefinger fan. He's still probably he's my second favorite character to Oberyn. And essentially my favorite character if you really take out 8 episodes of Oberyn Martell, because it's only 8 episodes he's in. Littlefinger
eight of the best episodes of any television show in history.
100%. But still, at the end of the day, Littlefinger is my favorite character. And in honor of him, because let's face it, this is now our new Littlefinger. It's Sansa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, it is our new Littlefinger, and that's essentially what the writers are trying to tell you. And if that's the case, I want her on the throne, man. Put her on the throne. Yeah, I wanted Littlefinger on the throne. Yeah. I honestly wanted this show to end, Ken, with Littlefinger on the Iron Throne. And I know that's crazy to like every single one of our listeners.
No, I've thought that I've had that conversation.
But I love the guy because to me, he's the most politically savvy. He's the most ambitious. He's the smartest guy in the realm.
And it's just fun to watch that.
And it's fun to watch.
I wanted to. God damn it, Ace. I'm sorry for swearing people or taking the Lord's name in vain. This is why I love talking Game of Thrones. I love talking with Lon and Rachel. I wish they were here, but I love some of this stuff because we're jumping around and I wanted to get your opinion on this. And I think a lot of people understood this, but Sansa ain't gossiping. Sansa is introducing chaos into the story because she knows that chaos is a ladder. She learned it.
100%.
She learned it. And
100%.
Baelish's influence is in this episode.
100%.
He's dead. I'm sorry, Ace. He's gone. She had to kill him. But he's still there.
100%. I 100% am on board in honor of Peter Baelish, the homie, as her planting the seeds, as her giving the information, as Varric calls it later on in the episode when he calls it information and not a secret. That's all Littlefinger, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, because she doesn't... and again, I'm quoting Scrimshaw, something he said to me off air, which is why we got to get him on the show. He says, Sansa, when she tells Tyrion, it isn't just a cheap giveaway. She's like, I've got a weapon, and that weapon's chaos, and I'm going to play it right now. Yeah. Because I know Tyrion's going to be concerned, and he's going to run to tell Varys. And once Varys gets it, Varys is going to do what he does. Ooh, she's not fit. I protect the realm. And I love Tyrion going, what does that mean? And again, this is going when I said everyone who says something I can get behind, where I can't choose a side, where I'm like, well, that's right. Ooh, that piece of cake's good. That piece of cake's good. I want all the cake. When Varys is like, the realm are the little people that are starving, that don't care. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I look at that and go, yeah, but then it's like, wow, but Varys, be careful. We could like Tyrion, we can deal with that another time. Yeah. And I love that too.
There is arguments for Dany's current push of where she's headed. Essentially, someone else put this on YouTube, I forget who, said like everything Dany has done is her kind of leaning towards being passive, being peaceful. Her crueler intentions would have probably gotten her the Iron Throne by now, if not like a long time ago. If that shot, I forget the end of the season, it might have been season 6 when she's sailing with her entire army and the 3 dragons.
That's the end of season 6.
Season 6. If she went straight to King's Landing with that,
she would have won.
And she didn't go to Dragonstone, she would have been currently on the Iron Throne, chilling.
She would have won.
She would have won easily.
Hands down.
Would have won.
And the show, I remember they were joking with people, even one of my old roommates who doesn't really watch the show, and he's like, well, clearly she's going to win. Yeah. And it's like, well, the show ain't going to do that.
I said the same thing, though. I said clearly she's going to win. There's no way she's not.
And it's the unraveling. She's fumbling on the 1 yard line and has been. And I don't necessarily think it's her fault.
She's fumbling because they told her to get into politics. And she's like, I don't want to do politics. I'm a conqueror. I conquer. And everyone...
As Dario told her.
Yeah. And Tyrion is like, no. If you want to come to Westeros, politics is what we do. And she's like, fine. And politics got her dragons killed, got her army cut in half, and now currently she's sitting in a position where she has no one left on this world, except maybe Jon, but even that is a stretch. And now
Yeah.
she's like, you know what? I have no reason to play nice anymore. I am going to burn them all and do what my father never did and was going to do. So there is reason for Danny to be this way. Yeah. I just don't want to see millions of people get burned and hear the children crying out. I'm like Tyrion. I'm like, good. I don't want to hear that sound. It's not and good. Qyburn's like, no, you don't.
Oh, God.
Implying that he has heard that sound.
Anton Lesser is a MVP of this GD show going back to his first appearance.
You know what I said
in season 2.
I was on Nerdist previously to this on their. And Game
congratulations,
of Thrones.
You need to be on more stuff.
I was on the Game of Thrones podcast, and they asked me who was the MVP of this episode. I said Qyburn, and then everyone completely looked at me like I was crazy. But Qyburn straight up like pulled like crossover between the legs, 3-point shot from the middle, Damian Lillard type shooting when he just schooled Tyrion.
Yeah, he
was like, bro, we killed your dragons. We got dozens of these scorpions. We got the bigger army. You're the one who should be asking for forgiveness.
Which, and Qyburn's the one that designed
and he's the one who brought logic. When Tyrion is like, you're a logical man. And he's like, I'm using logic right now, Tyrion. You're not using logic.
And this is a big if the show ends with Cersei still on the Iron Throne, I don't think that's the case, but I think she'll die. But if that's the case, I mean, Qyburn got her there.
Yeah, I just want Qyburn.
I mean, I want to give Cersei credit. I don't want to take the only thing from Cersei, but boom, Qyburn, man.
The only thing I want from Qyburn, and I know I'm the weird guy who likes Qyburn, just change the look, man. You're not really a maester anymore. Like, I know he's rocking.
You want a cape and an armor, maybe?
No, give him something like. He's clearly not in the maester, because that's what maesters wear. You're not really a maester anymore. Like you're a hand.
No,
like, you're a lord now. Like
I want a new action figure for him. Yeah. But I take it as him rubbing it in the face of the maesters that kicked him out.
Sure. And the fact that it's like an all black robe too, which is so like exactly.
Sith. No, Anton Lesser is of course the actor. I mean, every line. Go back to season 2. Other than he shows up, they see him. He's in. Is it 2 or 3? God, maybe it's 3. I don't know. When he shows up, he's in Harrenhal.
Robb Stark finds him.
Yeah, Robb Stark finds him in Harrenhal, right?
It is in Harrenhal.
Qyburn is all he says. But you're already like, who? Yeah. Everything he says is just perfect, pitch perfect as an actor. And I love talking about the show in story. But I love to pause and give the actors credit when it's due, and this is very much due. I love that stuff. Jon, Sansa, Arya, Bran, all this stuff here, because this is The Last of the Starks is the episode title. Jon, and I know it sucks, and I know it's sad, and I would have pet Ghost too. Don't worry about it. That is obviously the symbolism of him leaving the wolf for the dragon. I think, and I don't necessarily, and here's the thing, I don't think Ghost is, I don't know if that's the last we see of Ghost. We'll check the budgets, but I don't know if that's the last we see. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the last we see of Tormund. I don't know. But Jon Snow being unable to tell just a little white lie, as Tyrion warned him or asked him last season, has it ever occurred to you to lie every now and then? And because he's so good, as my girlfriend calls him, a Boy Scout, and she's not using it in a good way, I've got to tell you something. Like even Danny going, don't tell anybody. I'll have sex with you, nephew. Just don't tell anybody. We could do this. I got to tell people. And again, Jon's right. Being honest is good. You should. But Ned Stark was like that too. And even though he's not his father, he's got a lot of that too. He's not here for the game. We've always known that. That's not a revelation. So I look at Jon, and that's where I'm like he's a number 1 draft pick starting to lose it too.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. But that is Jon Snow. Mm-hmm. Like Jon Snow
through and through
will happily take a beheading like Ned Stark if that means keeping his honor.
You're so right.
He will happily be like, oh, if this is going to cost me my head, I already died. I don't care. You think I care about my life? I already died, man. Like, he doesn't care. He'd rather keep his honor than keep his life. Yeah, that's 100% Jon Snow. He had to tell someone. And I'm glad that he said, just my 2 sisters. That's it. I swear, Danny. That's it. Just them 2. Which eventually we all know leads to Sansa, spilling the beans.
And I actually love the Bran moment of him like, it's up to you. It's your choice. I actually love that.
That was great. That was actually very good.
Cool.
But at the same time, it does go to show Dany's motivations. Like, she just really wants Varys at all costs. Like, even at the cost of keeping the man you say you love to keep this. This is his first time feeling somewhat validated.
Right.
Not being a bastard. And you're taking that away from him? Like,
right.
even that is a little bit like, how
like
well do you know Jon? If you're taking over his only validation that he has, that he's not a bastard. Like, even he doesn't even want the throne, and he's told you multiple times he doesn't.
Right.
But what she says is correct. They will give it to you whether you want it or not. That's very true, because we see that in the scene with Varys and Tyrion. I don't know if you want to jump there.
Yeah, let's jump there, because that was one of my. This episode was one of the more season 1 style episodes for me. Again, little old Ken. I thought this was this is some season 1 stuff that I loved. And that Tyrion Varys scene was definitely it. Yeah. So what do you think of that?
Well, I immediately went back to season 7, and what I predicted to you a long time ago, and I don't think it's a crazy prediction, because they essentially told you they're spelling it out for you in season 7 when Varys first joins Dany's team, and he gives the whole spiel of like, why should you join my team? And he's like, oh, I'll tell you things straight up. And she's like, cool, but if you ever betray me, Varys, I will burn you alive. Like, she made it, she almost slowed down every word to the point where it's like, I think she's trying to tell me.
Let me be clear.
Yeah, I think Varys is going to betray Dany and she's going to burn him alive. I don't know if that's a stretch.
Yeah.
Following that scene, because they made it a point to really emphasize that. Then we followed that up with Melisandre being like, hey, you're going to die, by the way. And Kinvara, even if I want to go even further back, being like, you want to know what the fire, what the voice out of the fire said to you. This is all leading up to Varys' death.
100%. And I'm glad you brought it up, because we're going to the same spot where I don't think Melisandre was just telling him, oh, you're going to die, because her death was important, that she knew was coming. And I think his death is going to be, there's going to be some relevance to it.
100%.
And
this isn't just, he tripped.
Yeah. Varys hit his head. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be Dany burns him alive. Like, that to me isn't a bold prediction, considering she literally said that. So I think that's where we're headed with Varys. But everything he said, man, I don't know. I kind of want to hear your thoughts of, is he making valid points for Jon inheriting the Iron Throne?
He is. And this goes back to, again, what my theme for this episode was. That person's right. This person's right. This Arya's right. I think Arya was great. We needed Dany, but now we don't need her. Like, I think everyone's saying some truths. There's some truths in there. Remember, Sansa said, what is it, episode 2 or 3? I can't remember now. This is it. We need, sometimes the strongest thing or the right thing you can do is face the truth. And I think that's a lot of what's going on here. I think Varys is right to want to remove Dany. I don't think, and what he's done, and remember, the Targaryen restoration, obviously heavier in the books, but it's still present in the show. He talks to Illyrio Mopatis in season 1. Arya overhears that conversation. This was part of his plan. Now, Viserys might have been more part of the plan, but I think we all know Viserys was the bad choice, and Dany rightfully brings that up. Back a couple of seasons ago. Oh, you didn't even want me, though. You wanted my crazy, silly, angry, violent, evil brother. So I think he's right. His whole speech about protecting the realm, I think, has always been right, because it's not wrong to defend the little folk here in this land. But I just don't. Are
you Team Tyrion in that scene?
I'm a little. I'm Team Tyrion.
It was a good debate. I loved this seeing them debate, going back and forth, and Tyrion being like, "No, sure, she's ambitious.
Yeah,
so what?"
Yeah.
Like, he had a comeback for everything Varys said.
Yeah, and his point about, because Varys is in the world that's created here, in our world, unfortunately at times, Varys is like, he's a man, that helps too. And I love Tyrion going, that's Joffrey was a man, and that didn't matter.
Not just that, but Cersei's.
Yeah.
Like that point, I know that was a point of conversation.
Yeah.
But I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Cersei's on the throne. The lords are fine with her for all that's worth.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's why I think, but I think so the both sides of the debate, but I think Tyrion's right to be like, I'm interpreting it as just like, hold on. Varys, hold the F on. I know what you do. I've been there. How many kings have you supported and also tried to remove? I'm not saying you're wrong. Wait, as Wilson Phillips once saying, hold on for one more day. things are going to go your way. Just wait, because I think he but I think he really likes Varys. They get along. He feels he's valuable. We are advising the queen. We are to be worried. Yes, that's our job. Don't go beyond that, right?
Yeah.
Don't go beyond that.
I think that's key in this scene. Is essentially Tyrion isn't saying you're wrong. He's saying let's wait and see. Let's help her. She's young. Like, let's not, jump ship and immediately try and kill her now.
Yeah.
Just because she's a little edgy.
Yeah.
Like, let's, show her the way. Let's be her advisors and advise and try to steer her the right direction. And he made good counterpoints too, saying, no, I know crazy. That's crazy. And Jon has the right temperament. The people love him. He's from Westeros. She's not from Westeros. I know I keep saying that, but that's huge.
No, it's huge.
And Jon would be a pretty good king. That's his point, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I come in neither, and I still go to Sansa.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back to her after this. Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially, it's essentially that debate of who would be a better ruler, and Varys kind of to give Varys credit, he sees the coming storm. He sees the coming craziness.
Yeah.
Because he can kind of sense it. It's like, I still feel like she's a little loose.
Yeah.
She's a little trigger happy. I want to jump ship now instead of bailing later when she's already killed like hundreds and thousands of people.
It's interesting. I wonder how much Varys looked at Rhaegal, not Rhaegal, the dead dragon, but Rhaegar Targaryen, as Barristan Selmy. I'm just going in show here. Let's not worry about anything else. Barristan Selmy telling the great story before he dies of Rhaegar and everything. I wonder how much Varys is like Jon now that he knows this information. Man, Rhaegar would have been the best.
Reminds me of Rhaegar. Yeah.
He could be Rhaegar, and he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But we also never got to see Rhaegar on the throne.
True.
So we don't know. So I wonder how much, because Sansa would be the best. Sansa would be the best to me because she'd be a great politician and queen, and she's learned everything. But also, I think she also cares about people. Sansa to me is a good person at the end of the day. But so I'm fascinated with Varys's fascination with Jon, because on paper, don't worry even about the prophecies, just on paper. Yeah, it makes sense. Everyone loves him.
Number one draft pick.
But everyone loved Robert Baratheon too.
Yeah.
Everyone loved Robert.
And don't forget Renly's line, which is a great line. Do you really think good soldiers make good kings?
Yeah.
Jon's a really good soldier. He'll lay down on the line. He'll fight in your battle. But is that going to make a good king? Maybe.
Love that you brought in Renly. Because there might be warning signs along the way.
Yeah. You know what that warning sign is, Ken? Not hugging Ghost when you're leaving. You brushed over it, but I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Don't let me.
God.
You didn't want to, wanted to pet him on the head?
I've seen Cersei burn people alive, and this was more cruel than that. This was evil, Ken. How can you look in the eyes of that beautiful creature who literally got its ear bit off by a dead person, and it's scarred up and fought in your battle, in your war, and you're tethered to him. Tethered. It's a dire wolf. It's a mystical creature, for crying out loud, and you're leaving him as if he's a annoying pet, a clingy dog? No, it's a dire wolf.
You are not wrong at all. And I don't think it's
heartbreaking.
I don't think it's small. I think it even goes beyond heartbreak. I think you could look at it. I'm not saying that Dan and Dave put this in here, and I just have fun crawling into these corners of stories. All right. Not only is it just the symbolism of the wolf leaving the dragon, you're right. The dire wolves are connected to them. Go back to season 1 if you forgot, And I think this could be the symbol of, much like Jenny Goldstone's is a song about people, someone leaving who they're supposed to be and giving up stuff and love is the death of duty and all these kind of things. I think it could be representative of the Jon in season 1 or season 2, or season 4, where he's like, "Oh, come here, boy, there you been." That Jon is gone in a way by choice. Like he's like, "You don't belong here. You get away. You don't. Tormund, take him. You don't belong." And I don't think that's Jon, and I think that's a sign of him slipping, if that makes sense.
100% a sign of him slipping. 100%. Because for me, it very much. I don't know. That to me was so heartbreaking, considering you brought up
100% heartbreaking.
Outside of Craster's Keep, that was that scene after he killed Carl Tanner.
Yeah.
And he's 7 Hills, come here, boy. And then he says, "I missed you, boy," and he starts petting him. I mean, come on, man. But that's beautiful right there. That's true connection, and not just that, but the fact that when he died, who was there by his side before anyone else, if not Ghost?
But again, I think sometimes when you let the story play out, something like that might be a little bit of the point, or at least an emotional signpost. Doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
It sucks too much for me personally. Like, to me, if I had to choose John and Sam, nope, I'm taking John and Ghost. Nope, I'm taking John and Ghost. Like, nothing, no relationship on this show has more of a connection, Ken, than John and Ghost. Like, literally connected.
It's a literal connection.
It's a literal connection. They're the same person. And yet we get that. Oh, that was...
Well, it's the last of the Starks, but I don't know if it's over. I don't know. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
obviously,
it is. And we can revisit this, and I go, maybe I would have liked to see him pet him.
John goes up north and retires beyond the wall, where he runs into Ghost, and they hug and
the last
live
shot.
happily ever after as he rides off into the sunset on top of Ghost.
That is the last shot of the series.
That is the last shot.
Him heading to the lands of always winter atop Ghost. Oh boy, I made a mistake leaving you.
And the score rises. Tears fill our eyes.
Let's talk.
If that's the finale.
There you go.
That's the best show ever.
That's all I want from you. That's all I want from you, Andres. Is just wait till they're all in the can so we can see where it goes. And I think that goes for Tormund too. I don't necessarily think he's done. It could be, but
sure. And if he is, I was cool with that.
Yeah. No, I think
like, you know what? I'm gonna go up north.
We're wild. Yeah, we did our thing. Yeah. Free folk. Part of it was we wanted to be considered free folk versus wildlings, and we're gonna make our choice to go back. Arya Stark. I'm just going to skip a lot of things, go to this point. Do you think she's going to try to kill Cersei?
100%. Yeah. That's essentially, they told us that when she looks at the Hound and he's like, I have unfinished business. And she's like, me too. I mean, they're both on a mission to kill a certain someone. The Hound wants to kill the Mountain. And Arya wants to kill Cersei. She wants to be the one to do it. She might be the one to do it, Ken.
I think it's a real good thing.
I still have if I had betting, I would still put money on Jamie.
I'm putting money on Jamie too. That's our friend Kevin at 3 Cocktail Questions on Anchor has been on the Arya wears Bernadette's face, the handmaiden for the Queen for a long time, and I think I can get behind that. I think that's a better chance now than I would have thought even an episode ago. It's satisfying if Arya does it. She's got a lot of big wins under her belt now, and that's to me kind of part of her purpose.
Would that be too many touchdowns though?
Might be.
Yeah, I think it would be, to be honest. If I'm being real honest, I prefer 100% Jamie.
I want Jamie.
Yeah.
I want Jamie.
I know you literally just jumped to Arya, but can we jump to Jamie?
We ain't jumping, we're talking. Go to Jamie. Because I love...
How did you read that? Because I felt like there was a lot of confusion around that. Because I 100% read it as... I killed for Cersei. I've thrown kids out windows for Cersei. I will murder everyone for Cersei. I got to go get rid of Cersei. Whereas the creators of the show, D&D, afterwards were like, oh no, he's going back to Cersei. He's in love with Cersei. I did not read that at all.
Well,
I read it as, I love you, Brienne, but there's a woman back here who was my life, literally my life, and made, like, I'm evil. Like, when he said his speech to Brienne, I'm not a good man. Like, I'm an evil dude.
Yeah.
I have to die by this storyline. And essentially, you know what? I've lived my life. I've done all these evil things because of one person. I have to eliminate that person and then die happy, essentially, he was saying. That's how I read it. But was it him falling back to Cersei?
I 100%
would hate that.
I 100% read it like you did.
Okay.
100% read it.
And then I
110%. But
then I saw the after the show, and I was what?
They said it's like a drug. He's addicted to her, and that's different.
But they also said that he tried the another woman, and he was like, you know what, I'm good. I prefer Cersei, and I was like, what? I still don't. Look, I'll say sometimes George Lucas says some things, and you're like, I don't know if that happened, George. Or purposely misleading.
Purposely misleading.
That's what I heard too, that they're purposely misleading you to think that he's
Could be.
back with Cersei.
I took those first of all. I love the whole sequence with Brienne. Grace and I are here hooting and hollering.
Oh, me too.
She had tears in her eyes. Grace, my girlfriend, had tears in her eyes. And you can go listen to her show, Grace and Alicia Have Lives, on Anchor as well, where they do Game of Thrones stuff. Grace had tears in her eyes, happy for Brienne. And I loved what happened. I don't love what happened. I love the real world moment. I'll say this. I love the real world moment of two people. They finally get together and one is afraid of it. Jaime's going to stay up here, and Tyrion's like, "Oh, good for you. You're up here, really? I didn't think you could do that." And Jaime's like, "Oh, I totally." Turns the corner. I can't do this. And I this is in a relationship podcast, but I have been in situations where I've broken some hearts, and I'm happy where I'm at, and life gets you where you need to be. But I have turned my back on a situation that probably could have made me very happy because I knew it wasn't. And I might have been addicted to depression and addicted to struggle. I'm addicted to heartbreak at one point. I'm no longer that case. God bless it, a woman in my life has changed that. And she ain't Cersei, though she does love her. And that's how I read this sequence. So Brienne crying, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I did see some pushback against that. I saw one person on a friend's Facebook, "Oh, you turned Brienne into a sniveling thing." If that's how you took it, this isn't your life. It's characters' lives.
Yeah.
And she should be heartbroken because Jaime broke it.
Yeah.
And that's part of his journey. And I took it as I've got to go back to her, but I think it's going to be for death. Maybe, but here, Ace, maybe this. Sorry, I'm monologuing. Maybe he at this point thinks, "I love her." And then when he gets there, he's like, "No, I got to kill you." Maybe. I don't mean to happen that it switches like that.
Yeah, or a situation happens where something's going on between Dany and Cersei, and he's like, "Oh, I think I have to stop this by killing Cersei."
They hit upon Jaime stabbing his king in the back. That's who he is known for, right? That's what he's known for. The fact that he might have to do it again, to me, makes poetic sense.
Yeah,
but for a different reason.
Yeah.
Maybe he's heralded for that now, versus how it defined him negatively.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like that's where it's going, and I like that. I think most people like it, maybe because of the theory of the Valonqar.
Yeah,
that's essentially why people want this to happen so bad, because it would make poetic sense, like you just said. But it's also. I also took that scene in that heartbreaking moment for Brienne as Jaime realizing that I can't retire a happy old man and live happily ever after. I am a man with the blood of thousands on my hands. I'm not a good man. I'm going to die. And if I'm going to die, I'm going to do something crazy first, which is get rid of Cersei. That's essentially how I read it, is him fully embracing death. Yeah. And kind of wanting to die because of how evil he is, essentially, because Jaime's a messed up dude. And that's why I love him, to be honest. I love him. I love that he's a crazy, psychotic killer reformed, right? I mean, obviously he's some sort of reformed, otherwise we wouldn't root for him. Yeah. But he's still a crazy, psychotic killer. He still has blood on his hands. So he feels like the burden I have to lift off my shoulders before I rest and die is Cersei.
He is one of the more interesting characters on this show, in a show full of interesting characters.
But I will say this, Ken, that if they do go back to Jaime defending Cersei somehow or something like that, I will be not happy with that at all.
Well, I think that'd be fair, but I just don't see it happening.
I don't see it either. I just can't. It doesn't make sense.
I just can't see it, and I think it's always...
Or like you said, if he does, and he's like, I love you, I'm sorry, somehow he realizes that he's not doing the right thing.
That's maybe fine. And I'm glad I don't have to write this show, excuse me. But yeah, maybe it's like, "I'm back, honey. Oh, wait, you're pregnant. That's my baby. Yeah, that's his baby.
Saying it's his.
That's his baby. I'm going to kill her."
You're willing to sacrifice people, like, now I have to kill her.
Yeah. Maybe it's one, and that's why I always say, hey, let's wait. We are here to analyze what we watched, but let's see where it goes. But I agree with you. If he shows up and he and Cersei end up happy ever after or whatever, no.
Yeah,
but
that would not be
you
cool.
and I read it the same way.
Cool.
And it sucks for Brienne. It really, really does.
It does. But we kind of predicted it, right?
But that's life.
I'm
sorry, but
one
that's
of them
life.
one of them is not going to make it.
Yeah.
this is not going to have a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah, weren't we kind of warned about that? If you,
Ramsey.
you haven't been paying
Shout
attention.
out to Ramsey.
We're gonna take a break here, but certainly, I want to wrap up a little bit on not wrap up on Sansa, but I have loved what they've done with Sansa this year. I should just have her on the show next time, but I know for a fact Grace, who's never been a huge Sansa fan, her favorite Sansa moment was this hound scene. A lot of people didn't like that scene. That's a different maybe discussion. But her scene, she went like this. That's the best scene they've given Sophie Turner the entire show. And I think for me, it is this dark horse candidate, the girl who's doing needlepoint, is now the one I think who should be queen. And she knows it, and I'm glad she knows it.
Yeah.
And she looks back and goes, yeah.
Man, it took me 7 seasons, Ken, but I'm finally on board for Sansa Stark.
But that's no season.
I did not like Sansa.
Me either, buddy.
Every season.
Me either, buddy.
I never liked Sansa Stark.
Me either, buddy.
But this is the season that finally gets me. And you know what it is, Ken? I will say it again. My boy Littlefinger, in honor of Littlefinger, because I think he, knowing he died at somehow in the afterlife, Littlefinger is proud of Sansa, even though he knows that he was killed by her. He's somehow grinning and being like, yeah, I taught you well, girl. I taught you to get
you killed me, but
you killed me, but that was good. Like you played the game well. I still feel like he's somehow proud, and somehow his legacy lives on in Sansa Stark. And as I said before, if that's the case, that's the best. No one better than someone a powerful woman being taught by the most powerful, the smartest man to me is Littlefinger. Like all the skills of Littlefinger inside the heart of a Sansa Stark, inside the body of a powerful woman. That to me is like all the attributes of someone who's the perfect ruler.
Again, a little bit of Cersei, a little bit of Catelyn,
A little bit of Cersei,
Ned,
Catelyn. Yes. That's the perfect combination of like trained by a little bit by Cersei, just like from afar, trained closely by Littlefinger. The Stark family of honor and royalty and all this stuff makes the perfect candidate. And honestly, I don't. We keep saying Iron Throne. I don't think she's gonna be Iron Throne. I don't think she wants it, to be honest. I think she's gonna rule the North, and she's gonna make an independent North, and she's gonna be, the king in the North, the king in the North, the queen in the North. I think I think that's what's going to happen. Even though I feel like she would be the best ruler of Westeros.
It's really hard for me right now to predict the story's end, even more than I think going into this season, which I love, by the way. But one possible outcome, what you just described, really excites me. Of this, I have a T-shirt that says "The North Remembers," and that's a reference to the Red Wedding in the North. But that's not something just for the Red. That is something that's known. You know what they say. The North remembers. We hear all the time. The North, John, you're a direwolf. You don't belong here. We're dead. We hear it all the time.
It's different.
The North, the North, the North, the North. And this idea of, we have Torrhen Stark, the king who knelt. We have all these history of Starks and everything. And that Sansa could be the one to the last of the Starks, essentially, because Arya's all about family. She talks about it often. She wants Jon. That's what starts the whole conversation. But I think that I really still see Arya going west of West, or that's not me.
That's a good point. If the episode is titled "The Last of the Starks," Sansa is the last Stark.
Because Bran ain't it.
Because Bran isn't it. Arya is kind of. You're right. She kind of isn't either.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to come back for the family reunions, but I'm going to go travel.
Sure.
I'm going to see the world.
Sansa is the last Stark.
Sansa's last Stark. And so if the show ends in any way, shape, or form, and part of it being her restoring the North,
I think that's what
and the Queen of the North, that's quite an impressive journey.
It is, and it's. I really hope it also ends with the breaking of the wheel, which basically means no more.
Yeah,
I don't think, who I don't think is going to make it out alive, Ken? I don't think King's Landing is going to make it out alive.
No, because I think Danny prophesied that, and Danny might be the one to do it now.
Oh yes.
Could you imagine going back to that season 2 prophecy with with Pat Pri in the House of the Undying? Imagine going back to that and going, oh yeah, Danny, that's you.
That's you. That's immediately what I thought, because I kept going back to it, and at the end of the episode, it hit me. I was like, oh. House of the Undying. We still haven't seen that. It's Danny. It's Danny. Danny burns King's Landing. She basically fulfills a prophecy from the Mad King. Yeah, like that is full Star Wars.
Okay, Ace. If I could hug you right now, I could. But my desk. I was just gonna say, go to some of the stuff with Anakin. I'm talking the Phantom Menace novel. Yep, I said it. Go to the Mortis arc in Clone Wars and go to some of the general prophecies in Star Wars. Vader gets the visions all the time. There's things going on, and people kind of get these visions, and he is the chosen one. He is the chosen one, but part of that is to bring about some destruction, and there's a path. That's a whole different discussion. But I went to that, and I went to George R.R. Martin, as we know, as we say, and I say it a lot, I even say it on the Force Center podcast when talking about the prophecies of Star Wars. George R.R. Martin loves saying prophecies are misinterpreted, wrong, misleading. I was watching Alt Shift X talking about Archmaester Marwyn, which is a book-only character. I thought Broadbent was going to play him in Season 7. It wasn't the case. Where Marwyn just straight up says, prophecies, and I'm paraphrasing, prophecies do you wrong. And you've got John and Danny prophesized in a lot of people's minds, and I'm even in fans' minds, as the great savior. Sometimes I wonder if George R. Martin's like, no, part of my point is you shouldn't believe in those kind of prophecies.
Yeah.
And someone like Sansa is more valuable to me in those type of stories. I don't know, man.
Yep, I feel you.
There's a lot more to talk about. Ace and I thought we were going to have a quicker episode because it was just us two. If Lon and Rachel were here, this would be a 7-hour episode, which would be amazing. But we're going to take a quick break. We got some fan questions to get us started into our second half of our discussion here. Stick with us. I know you guys love the shows, but Ace and I also have other work to do because we got to work. This is why I think Casterly Talk should now be 5 days a week. I'm kidding. There's a lot more to talk about. Let's get to it. Casterly Talk coming back in just a moment.
Hi everybody, I'm Thomas Rissling and welcome back to Ruminations from the Realm here on Casterly Talk. Now today I want to talk about the Mad King and how his descent into madness both parallels and differs from Dany's. But let's start with some history. Aerys II Targaryen was the Mad King and father to Rhaegar, Viserys, and Daenerys. His reign began suddenly after the death of his father in 262 AC and it ended with his own death in 283 AC at the hands of Jaime Lannister. Over the first 9 or 10 years, he was a fairly successful king who was somewhat composed, though he was quick to anger and very malleable, easy to sway. He had grandiose dreams like building a new capital city entirely out of marble because he couldn't stand the smell of King's Landing, and another one like constructing a network of underground tunnels to make the deserts of Dorne bloom again. He achieved very few, if any, of these lofty goals, though over time he began to tire of these dreams just as fast as he would dream them up. He started growing apart from his lifelong friends and even his king's hand, Tywin Lannister. Tywin was widely considered at this time to be one of the best hands in history, and some even claimed it was he who truly ruled the Seven Kingdoms. And the worst part of it was that during the first 10 years of his reign, he and his wife Rhaella had 3 miscarriages, 2 stillborn children, Prince Daeron, who died at only 6 months old, and Prince Aegon, who was born prematurely and died at roughly 9 months old. So 7 lost children. Aerys II was not present at Summerhall when the tragedy that killed many of his blood relatives had occurred. He would have only been a teenager who was likely terrified that something had happened to his sister and new wife, Rhaella, who at the time was carrying Rhaegar. But despite such horrible tragedies plaguing his life, the most important event, and the one that is said to have fully brought out the madness in him, was the Defiance of Duskendale. I'll do a Cliff Notes version here, but I really encourage you to read into the Defiance of Duskendale and the events both before and after, as it's really interesting stuff. Duskendale is a port city on Blackwater Bay that had by 277 AC lost most of its wealth and standing because King's Landing was rising to prominence and was essentially replacing it economically. The Lord of Duskendale, Dennis Darkland, refused to pay taxes to the crown and decided that Duskendale deserved a charter similar to that which Dorne had established hundreds of years earlier, allowing them certain rights and privileges that the other lords of Westeros were not afforded. After their defiance had been established, Dennis invited Aerys to Duskendale to hear out his wishes. Tywin wisely advised his king against it, but Aerys' distrust of his hand and his paranoia around Tywin's every decision and move had already been growing over the last 5 years, to a point that they had actively been working against each other's interests even. So Aerys ignored Tywin and departed for Duskendale, and upon his arrival at Duskendale, the men in King Aerys' escort were murdered, and he was imprisoned for months, During this time, Tywin fought hard to rescue his king, with no other option but to besiege Duskendale until they ran out of supplies, for he knew that attacking would mean certain death for his king. Tywin eventually gave Lord Darklyn an ultimatum: release the king or die in the morning along with every single person within their walls. But before dawn, Aerys was saved single-handedly by Sir Barristan Selmy of the King's Guard, who scaled the walls at night and rescued his king. This act led to the surrenders of House Darklyn and Hollard, as they had lost really their only bargaining chip. But King Aerys was never the same. He executed the members of Houses Darklyn and Hollard swiftly and without mercy, except for when Sir Barristan requested that he spare one Hollard boy, Dontos. King Aerys could not deny the man who had saved his life, so he spared the boy. And a side note, this boy is the same knight who showed up drunk to Joffrey's name day and was made into a literal fool after Sansa spoke up for him. After the Defiance was stamped out entirely, the Mad King's ever-present bouts of rage and paranoia became more frequent and intense. He would go on to stay in the Red Keep for nearly 4 years straight, never leaving, abusing his wife and developing his deep obsession with fire and wildfire. He became so afraid of being poisoned that he would rarely eat, eventually causing him to become thin and sickly. He would often cut himself on the Iron Throne accidentally, so often in fact that he grew desperately afraid of sharp objects and blades, going so far as to not allow his hair and nails to be trimmed, despite his hair being down to his waist and his nails being nearly 9 inches long. This paranoia eventually shifted into him thinking that every blade could and would be used to kill him. This, combined with his malnutrition, meant that the cuts did not heal, further worsening his appearance as he became covered in wounds, earning him a second nickname, King Scab, and fueling further gossip about him. He would then accuse his hand, Tywin Lannister, of failing to rescue him, pointing out that Tywin besieged the castle instead of storming it, even though Tywin took that route to save Aerys' life. Now we all know the rest. He went on to appoint Jaime to the King's Guard, causing Tywin to resign and return to Casterly Rock, the act that eventually led to the sack of King's Landing and ultimately to his death. He brutally executed Rickard and Brandon Stark, amongst many, many others, and even plotted to destroy the entire city of King's Landing with wildfire. He remained truly mad until his very last breath. Now, let's take a look at Dany and her recent somewhat descent into madness. She lost her only true child and the first man she loved in rapid succession. Then she lost her 2 other children in Rhaegal and Viserion, again, in rapid succession. Then she finds out that the man she now loves is also her nephew and is actually the rightful heir to the throne that she's fought over a decade for. She also lost the majority of her armies along with her favorite advisor and dear friend, Ser Jorah Mormont. And all of these different events have caused her to doubt and even threaten those who have allied themselves with her, Jon included. She's even developed a bit of a taste for burning those who oppose her. And all of this has happened while they were gearing up to fight the army of the dead, but also the family of her hand, Tyrion Lannister, whose sister then kidnaps and executes Dany's closest friend Missandei, ruthlessly, and right after killing Rhaegal to boot. So now that we're all caught up, look at it and ask yourself, is Dany's madness any different from her father's, or any less understandable? If it is, how? And if not, was the execution of Missandei Dany's Defiance of Duskendale moment? Because I sure think it was. You can find me on Twitter at Thomas Rissling, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Ruminations from the Realm here on Casterly Talk.
We're back on Casterly Talk. Thanks for that segment from Thomas Rissling, Ruminations from the Realm. His segment there about the madness. Dany's got some questions for you there. Check it out there. And then we got Ace. We got a lot to talk about here, but I wanted to go to the phones in a way and hear some thought starters. We have a longtime listener, Eric Monroe. We heard from him last week. He's back again. Let's listen.
Hey, Casterly Talk. So my question this week is about Cersei and who's going to kill her now. Honestly, there's a lot of contenders of who I think will end up doing it, because I do think she is going to die. But my question is, we know about the Valonqar prophecy. It hasn't been said on the show. We know Arya is going to King's Landing. She said she has unfinished business. We know she wants to do it. So my question is, if Arya is the one that ends up killing Cersei, would that be fulfilling for you, or would you consider it a disappointment if it's not Jaime or if it's not Tyrion.
Hey Ken, it's Vic. Hope you're doing well. Can't wait to hear you guys break down this week's episode of Game of Thrones. To me, the most interesting character this entire season has been Dany. I think the show has really been trying to vilify her, but as always, things are never black and white. Her motives are selfish, but her strategy isn't necessarily wrong. Sometimes you have to use brute force to take down a tyrant like Cersei, and innocent people may die in the crossfire, just like any war in human history. And, you know, she's someone who has had everything stripped away from her. Jorah, her dragons, her armies, Missandei, and now her whole identity is in question because of Jon. And the most dangerous people in the world are the ones who have nothing left to lose. So really interested to see how this whole plays out. Can't wait to hear you guys talk about it. Thanks.
Thanks, Vic. Vic was one of the longtime callers he used to have on Daily Thrones, along with Eric. All right, Andres, we did talk about a lot about this here, but I wanted to bring it back up and bring these questions to kind of put a point on them and then move on to some final stuff here. To Eric's question, we talked a lot about who will kill Cersei. Yeah. I think we explained, hey, we might not be satisfied if Jaime does it. But then he talked about Tyrion. Tyrion and Cersei had a big moment in this show. Yeah. I want to introduce that. Your thoughts on Tyrion maybe killing her and what will be satisfying for you?
I feel like I could see it. I kind of don't want to see it. I wouldn't be mad at it. Mm-hmm. To me, it's everything Cersei imagined. And that to me is so disappointing, right? It's Cersei always thought that Tyrion would be the one to be her downfall. Right. And her kind of being subverted and realizing it's Jaime is so much more poetic to me than Tyrion. Mm-hmm. And obviously to the point of Arya, I think we both agreed that it's fine, but it wouldn't be as cool if it was Jaime or as well done.
Right. Yeah.
And it might be a little bit of too much back-to-back W's for Arya.
And I like the idea of Tyrion doing it too, but it does seem that she's so focused on it that it would be Jaime. Here's what's funny to me. And I'm still a little bitter for these last couple of weeks on social media. If Jaime kills her, I bet people will be like, saw that coming. It's like,
you know what's funny? To answer his first point, I don't think the Valonqar prophecy as far as the younger brother has ever been brought up on the show. Correct me if I'm wrong.
And that's what he said. It never has. Maggie the Frog.
I think that's purposeful.
Yeah. Maggie the Frog, which begins season 5. Jodie May plays her from Last of the Mohicans. Shout out to Jodie May. Does just completely does not address it. And I remember at the time thinking, well, what about the Valonqar? What about the Valonqar? And this is where I've now 3 years later. I'm sorry, I don't mean. I hope this isn't finger wagging to anybody who enjoys a lot of that stuff. Just sometimes you just have to let that go.
Yeah, not just that, but the fact that everything you're saying right now, people would say it's too obvious. Imagine if they actually said it. Now, then it would be too obvious.
Then it would be really obvious.
But now I think they purposefully left it off the prophecy so they could do it. Yes. Because as I told you previously off air about Avengers Endgame, a lot of people who watch these movies and these shows don't necessarily keep up with everything outside of it.
Yes.
So not everyone knows about this prophecy, Ken. I can see a lot of viewers, because let's face it, Game of Thrones has a lot of people who tune in that don't know anything about anything and just watch this show as a soap opera.
Yeah.
That would be shocked that Jaime would kill her and would be incredibly surprised by it.
It goes to, and I'll say this again. Oh, Ken's been grumpy the last couple weeks. I think a lot of people in the punditry game love to sit on these shows and they love to tear into things, and they are just simply ignoring some important things, which is, you mentioned it, Ace, up top, which is why I love you. The business of making television, the business of making movies, the business of shows, the business of budgets. You know, it might have sucked. You know why the Dothraki went into the dark to die? It cost too much for the horses. Yes. That sucks. I also think, from my point of view, if you go back to season 7, the Dothraki are best in the open field. So if I had them, I'd want to, hey, you're good running long post patterns.
Plus, it was a good scene.
Plus, it was a beautiful scene.
It was amazing. It was the best part of for a lot of people, the best part of the episode.
And it worked. And it worked. That's a different. We're going back to it worked because it was like, holy crap! Because we saw what they did in the loot train. Yeah. Thinking of video games. So I oh my gosh, I lost where I was talking. What were we talking about? The business of TV. Yep. And the Valonqar and all these prophecies are great in the books when you have 14 chapters to explain it.
Yeah.
I guarantee, I know friends who say, I love Game of Thrones. And they were like, I haven't rewatched it ever. I'm thinking of doing that before season 8. And I was like, I've watched it 16 times, episodes 1 through 7.
Yeah.
You know, 1 through 1 season.
Not just that, but you can go back to R plus L. How many friends were like, what?
Dude, I'd wear that.
What is that?
I have that t-shirt.
And they love Game of Thrones. They're like, oh, Jon Snow's my favorite, but they have no idea what R plus L prophecy or theory is. Theory videos and theory stuff doesn't hit everyone who watches the show.
Hit the show, nor does sometimes the conversations. You know, we talked. I know, and I'm not really fully addressing it here because also we're two men, and maybe we should. But I know that Sansa Hound scene is upsetting a lot of people. But I also know at least 3 women, and there's 2 billion listening to right now, who found that to be their favorite scene of the show.
Interesting.
And I'm not going to take that away from them. It's a topic I almost don't want to touch right now. I can't. No. I don't feel I have a right to.
Because if we do, I have some hot takes. Let's not go there, Ken.
But that's it. And this is it's a TV show. You know why we knew Missandei was going to die? Natalie Emanuel had top billing. That's a business of TV. And we watched it and we were like, oh, not good for her. She's got top billing this week. That's contracts and it's things you have to do. And that's all factors into making a television show on this scale.
But to play devil's advocate, sometimes that it goes against for the good of the story and for the good of this plot and for the good of the characters, I mean. Yeah. Because sometimes it feels a little empty and it feels a little rushed and it feels a little bit like a plot device. Missandei's death. I'm jumping to Missandei's death.
Yeah, do it. We need to talk about it.
Yeah, because it feels a little bit of a plot device, a little bit of a I called it fridging today and I got a lot of crap for it.
Fridging. Explain that. I'm old and don't understand the terms of our youth.
So essentially it's getting a female character, a love interest, and putting her in a relationship with a man and then killing her off in a brutal way, so the man could be motivated to do something special. It comes from the Green Lantern comic where he falls in love with the girl and then he finds her dead inside her fridge. That the whole purpose of that was to get him to get mad at the villain who did that or whatever. A lot of people got real mad at me for saying that on Nerdist and were saying I was using the term incorrectly. I get it because the term essentially is to say that it's an empty female character, a character that doesn't have any background.
As it refers to the Green Lantern example.
But whereas Missandei has a ton of background, has a ton of character, and she is a full-rounded character. And I get that, but I can counter by saying, have we seen that from Missandei? We haven't seen a lot from her these past few seasons, and I feel like they've been building up to this moment to use her as a plot device to push Dany over the edge. To push and Grey Worm too, but the Grey Worm's a whole separate story because he's a secondary character to someone like a Dany. Yeah, but I feel like that was a plot device to get Dany to go full Mad Queen. Where at first she was like, "I'm thinking about burning." You know what? I'm burning the whole thing. Whereas before she was like, "Maybe I'll burn it," and now she's like, "Dracarys, let's go." That was Missandei's death. Essentially, that was the purpose of it.
No, I think I 100% get what you're saying.
That's fine, but if I play devil's advocate, I could say that's lazy writing for a female character. That's just me, being picky.
No, it's no. It's believe me, people are having this discussion online. Yeah. No, I don't want to have a counter to that. I think you're right. You made me think of, we talk about it in Star Wars a lot on Force Center, the mothers of Star Wars and the mothers of a lot of stories, Bambi even. Mothers die so that the character can go on.
That's right.
And then they have a relationship with the father. Yes, that is part of what we hope is now an evolving landscape of storytelling.
Yeah. You know? Can I add one thing too? Yeah. Something that I talked to off there with the Nerdist guys. Yeah. Is the idea of this story is essentially giving us the Mad Queen versus Mad Queen storyline, and the fact that Varys has this long conversation and speech about how Jon would be perfect because of his temperament and also because he's a man. Yeah. And I thought that was a very bold statement because at the end of this story, we get the two overly emotional women. We need a good man to sit on the throne to save us from these crazy emotional ladies. Yeah. And I thought that was a funny little side question that I had is like, is the purpose of Game of Thrones bitches be crazy? Because I feel like that's where they're headed, and that's kind of problematic.
But here's my thing, and my counter to that. And George R. R. Martin has said this.
Yeah, and my counter is Sansa, and that's what they told me too. That the Nerdist people and Joe Bot was like, well, Sansa is cool.
And I'm not. I want to make this clear. Ace and I aren't debating this point, but George R. R. Martin has said too. A lot of bad things happen to my women because that's the point.
That's true.
And maybe some of this stuff, and hear me out here. And this doesn't. If you're listening, I'm not taking any solid moral stance here. I think some of the stuff, all 8 seasons of the show, some of the stuff should make you feel uncomfortable. Some of the stuff, when Cersei Lannister tells Oberyn Martell everywhere in the world they treat little girls bad, I went, oh man, she's not just Westeros, but in life.
That's true. And I still, every time that moment, I was like, no, that's not true.
Because
not a Dorne.
Yeah, but then again,
Dorne was cool.
Yeah, because Dorne's cool. Yeah,
You made it shitty, but Dorne was cool.
And so I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. And I'm not, and this is where I would love to have Rachel and Lon.
It's a bigger metaphor for the treatment of women everywhere.
And sometimes that is the point. Is it always right to do that? We talk, there was a troubling kind of problematic Marvel Star Wars comic recently, and Joseph and Jennifer and I came, story itself might not have been bad.
It's just the Darth Vader controversy.
Story itself might not have been bad, but do we need to hear that story right now? And there's a lot of other things in storytelling better right now. And I think sometimes with Game of Thrones, they've done completely wrong things. And handled it wrong and done the wrong focus. And sometimes it's just, sometimes I look at it and go, yeah, actually, I think that was the point.
Yeah. I feel like,
and I'm not even necessarily talking about Missandei
with the show as big as Game of Thrones, I think controversy will always be a part of it, and I feel like that's essential to the theme of the show. No, I really do feel like, as someone who's a fan of Spartacus, my God, have you seen Spartacus?
Yeah,
Spartacus. There's rape every other episode, and it's pretty brutal and it's pretty gratuitous. Yeah, I still love that show to the core. I understand some of the elements might be a little too much, but that was the point of the show, right? To show you the Roman era.
Yeah.
Whereas Game of Thrones has a little bit of that, and I still feel like criticism is valid. I think you can be allowed to say, I still feel like that scene with Ramsay and Sansa was way too much, way too gratuitous, and took it too far, and wasn't necessary. And it feels a little bit of a plot device to be, for D&D to say, hey, look, she's cool because she got raped. It's like, oh, do we really want to say that? And this is me countering you. But there's just a lot there, and I really do feel like it's interesting. It's a very interesting point. I remember taking a feminist class back in college, right when season 2 was out, I think, or season 3. No, season 3. Season 3 was out, and I was taking a feminist course at ASU, and it was interesting because I had a conversation about Game of Thrones because the whole Game of Thrones is famous for its strong female characters. Yeah. So I thought I had all the right points, but a lot of the women countered me. And I was like, oh, I've never thought of Game of Thrones being somewhat problematic with their female. I thought of them as the strong female independent women, but there is some issues, and I think it's fair to point them out.
Oh, no, let me make this clear. It is. And I'm not, specifically to the Missandei desk. Here's why I like it. Because she should have jumped on her own. And no. Because if she
I don't agree with that.
No, because if she did that, Dany would have been like, I'm going to burn it down. And the people would have been like, well, we don't know if Cersei was going to kill her. Cersei did grab her. Maybe she was like, hey, all right.
I haven't heard that take. That's a weird take.
I've heard some people take that. But at the end, is there some problems? Is there some problems in all of Hollywood storytelling?
Yeah, 100%.
And I think it's
what I just said. Like, compare Game of Thrones to Spartacus, and it's like Game of Thrones is way better.
I don't want anyone. And in this day and age, I want to press pause and make sure please everyone understand where I'm coming from. I'm just like. Some of this, I'm trying to be as clear as I can from my perspective, but also, perspective of others. There was, I don't want to. She's not part of the show, but there was a female I was working with the other day on another show, and off air we were talking about Game of Thrones, and we knew we were going to address a question about Dan and Dave and Star Wars, and someone's like, "Wow, do we still want them to do it?" And she said, she goes, "Well, I think since they left the books, Dan and Dave have written the female characters better than George did." And okay, so that's
a hot take.
That's a hot take in her perspective, and
considering there's D&D hate accounts from women.
Absolutely, Absolutely, and
how he writes
and
female
and I am
characters.
and I mean, and I'm not taking that away from them, and I can't take it away from her. I don't feel I have to listen more than I have to talk
100%.
in these conversations, and it's hot button issues, everything across. And the show, it's so funny because the show just continues to dig down on what it is sometimes and have some really uncomfortable moments that sometimes maybe you don't need it, and sometimes maybe to me it's part of it. But the Missandei death, as far as I think it was a plot device in the sense of for Danny and everything, and that could absolutely
it's like
rob
gravity. All it takes is one big
one push. Yeah, absolutely.
Quoting the Joker there.
I think we got through an uncomfortable conversation. I don't know.
I'm crossing my fingers. People are okay listening right now.
I am
not
afraid.
Angrily tweeting.
I am afraid
because I did not mute words, Ken. I'm
muted words.
inviting. Tweet at me.
Yeah.
At Squad Leader Ace.
Yeah, I'm always about the conversations, and I want to handle it right. My intention is to always handle it right, and I'm on a podcast, so it's hard to shut up. But in real life, I try to listen more than I talk.
And it's good to remind people that this is a fictional story.
But that's sometimes my thing too. Like even some Star Wars stuff around Rogue One and stuff. I was like I was like yeah, but you also understand that's Star Wars. Like it's also to reflect back on some things and again, for God's sake, Missandei's like 11 in the books. Like it's a different take altogether. And in story. I loved her final words of "burn it down," and I feel for Grey Worm so much. Just want to hug that dude.
I got hot thoughts on Grey Worm, my boy.
Yeah, you love Grey Worm. He's still alive, Ace.
Is he? I think he's dead inside, Ken. And I also think that we're gonna see Super Saiyan Grey Worm, and I am here for it.
What'd you say? Super Saiyan? What?
Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan basically means like
I'm old and I don't know your terms.
It's Dragon Ball Z. Super Saiyan means like when a Saiyan goes Super Saiyan, they extra powerful and they can take down armies.
Love it.
They can explode planets.
This is a parent lifting a car when their kid's trapped underneath it.
He's gonna destroy the Golden Company single-handedly.
I'm hip.
Grey Worm in a spear against the entire Golden Company. I tweeted that out too. I said I'll take Grey Worm versus killing the entire Golden Company
versus
next
Harry
episode.
Strickland and everything.
Oh yeah.
I still think because remember his I thought was a pretty powerful moment to Missandei and Winterfell of do you want to die in this land?
Yeah.
Let's go to where we are loved.
To take a sidetrack, one thing I can't comment on the female interactions and the female relationships. I can't comment. I can't, and I've been very vocal about this, about the POC characters on Game of Thrones because there isn't any, and the ones we do get brutally murdered, destroyed, tossed aside, raped, exploded, whatever. We don't see a good ending to any of the POC characters, person of color, for anyone who doesn't know what that term means. I do feel a little bit sad about that. I'm not upset about it. I'm not saying, but the fact that it is the only African woman of color on the show is a little bit sad. And I where Grey Worm is headed is the same direction as well. But again, that's a whole different conversation. And I feel like it's not bad. It's just it's disappointing.
It is where it is. Yeah.
It's disappointing.
How do you feel about the idea? And some people had, I saw a couple of people tweet, maybe even us, a couple of episodes ago of like this ending with him going back to North and burying her there in some way, shape, or form.
That'd be great. I still see him going down in a blaze of glory.
You still see that?
Oh yeah, especially after Missandei. He's got nothing to live for.
True. Oh, yeah. And now he's
literally back to being 100% emotionless,
unsullied.
Unsullied.
Yeah. I don't know.
But at the same
would
time,
that offer you any comfort? I'm trying to give you any
100%.
I'm trying to put a blanket of comfort around you.
And Jon Snow riding off into the sunset with Ghost.
I think we have two endings we want to see.
Those are the two endings that give me that and I'll forgive everything.
If the characters, because I don't even know if I think what you're talking about, maybe not just with Grey Worm, but a lot of characters going out in different kinds of blazes of glory, good and bad. Not talking about the Bon Jovi versions. If we do a appendices Lord of the Rings ending, Jon riding off, Arya going west to west, Grey Worm getting to the shores of North, where he is bittersweet, sad, but can be loved and accepted in a way he wouldn't be in Westeros.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things about that. Those various endings that I'd be okay with, but I also think this is going to end badly.
Yeah, I don't see a happy ending, Ken.
No. I don't. And Vic had the question about Danny. We obviously talked a lot about Danny. But I want to, as we kind of start to wrap up here, because we do eventually have to get out of these places. Going back to Danny, because this was an episode called The Last of the Starks, and I think that has a lot to do with Sansa. But I think with the image, the journey of Danny, as you so wonderfully put it, the Daenerys Targaryen bad day, which literally starts with her, burying essentially Jorah, and ends with this loss of Missandei. And she's ready. And I saw someone tweet out that look on her face is like the I want to see the manager of King's Landing now face, where she's going to take it out. Vic's kind of, I'm not putting words in our fan Vic's mouth here, but he's looking at, is there any justification and everything? And we've talked a lot about you not following Danny. Here's where I'm stumbling to get. What do you want Danny to do next, Andres?
Ooh, that's good.
What do you want?
Put me in a tight spot.
I'm putting you in a tight box. Yeah. We're in a tight spot, as George Clooney would say on Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? What do you think? Because
I think
love it or hate it, she's got a lot of motivations to burn it all down.
She does. She does have a lot of motivations. I would totally be against that, to be honest. I don't, as Tyrion said, don't want to see little kids get burned. But at the same time, it is difficult for her to win this battle without Drogon. I, personally, bench your star player is my word of advice for Danny. Bench Drogon. Don't risk it. I love Hail Mary. Hail Mary pass with Drogon. While what are we gonna get? Like dozens and dozens of Scorpion boats flying at him. That's such a risk. I don't know if I would risk that. To me, I would place your bets on the Unsullied.
Yeah.
Maybe even wait for the Dornish to.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah,
they
wait
were like,
for Yara. Do something that requires more men and less dragon fighting.
I still think, I know she took Pike back and
why don't we wait for Yara to see if she can bring some Ironborn, or wait for the new Prince of Dorne, which, spoiler alert, it's me, guys. I'm the new Prince of Dorne. I took over the Martells.
I would love that if
the Cabreras are now ruling.
If House Cabrera was down at Dorne and you never told us and you were cast in the show, I would love that.
I just declared myself the prince. Something like that to me would make more logical sense than risking Drogon and burning a bunch of innocent people, while maybe having him killed at the same time. Because let's face it, I don't think he can dodge that many Scorpions.
No, but here's what I love about it. Here's the quandary, because again, we're telling her to wait, which is what she feels she's been told the entire time and why she's in this spot. Which is
but then again, if she listened to Sansa, she could have had my plan. She could have had maybe Dornish reinforcements or Greyjoy reinforcements.
Let's rest for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
because Cersei's not bringing her. Cersei's not going to bring her armies up here. We know this. I still think too. It's very possible that Yara gets the final say on Euron.
Yeah,
whether or not we see her or not again, I could see that moment.
I also heard a thought of Jaime versus Euron. I think that was kind of cool.
I mean,
that's kind of cool.
Quite frankly, they're setting that up too.
That's cool.
A little Mari Povich battle over whose baby that is. And Euron with the, does she like a finger in the bum conversation? Like I
still can't get over that. How did that guy?
I still think, because I still, we haven't talked a lot about Cersei, but in this episode, but I think we'll have our chances by the time the series is done here, in season 8. But I still feel, hear me out. I still feel for her in a little way, going back even season 1, because she hates Euron. She, has probably a little bit. He's probably fun for a night, but she hates it, and she hates more than this. I think Cersei hates that she's in this position. That she has to have this guy around. And he's great, and he's taking down Draggers.
But protecting a people that you actually wouldn't mind seeing get burned.
Yeah.
She's like forced to protect him.
Yes.
And she's like, man, I wouldn't mind if, if I wasn't here, I'd be like, hey, Danny, go ahead and light it up.
Yeah.
Because that last, I think it's season 5 finale.
Yeah.
When she gets the walk of shame.
Yeah.
Like right there, it's when she's like, you know what? I think I'd be cool if everyone died right now. So
this is what Cersei does, man. She dreams of ways to kill her enemies. Yeah. And Ellaria Sand, you kissed my daughter and poisoned her. I'm going to do that to you. Danny, you're the breaker of chains. not some more. Not as they say in Young Guns, not no more, Billy, not no more. I think that Cersei, I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do to the people. Yeah. She's a hateful woman.
She is.
Hateful woman.
Olenna Tyrell. What did she say? The most unpleasant person I've ever met.
Yeah.
100%. I am not Team Cersei.
I mean, I'm not. I love Lena Headey, and I actually
You'd
do.
You'd be surprised how many people are Queen Cersei team.
Oh, no.
On Team
I know,
Cersei.
I know some of them.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Very closely.
I was very shocked on Twitter where people are like, yeah, burn him. And I'm Cersei burn him, Dany burn him. I think everyone's just rooting for King's Landing to explode.
Yeah, because it's cool, man. It would look cool.
I think it's going to happen.
But it was funny. People were rooting for that wall to come down, and then it came down, and they were like, eh.
True.
No, I like Cersei. I like her. I think she needs to die, and I think she's bad. If I was living in the kingdom, I wouldn't want Cersei to win. But because I like Lena Headey and I like what she brings. Ace, any final notes? I know there's a lot. I know we didn't get to much Arya and Gendry. And,
that's not her. When she said that's not me. Shout out to Gendry for shooting a shot.
Yeah.
Shoot your shot, man. And he shot it.
He shot it.
Half-court shot.
Yeah.
Tried.
And I don't think, I know it was a political move on Dany's part, and she was very proud of that, but I don't think Gendry Baratheon factors into much going forward.
Oh, I was going to say, I think he would make a great Lord of Storm's End.
Oh, no, he would. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Him bringing an army or something?
I've heard some people say this is actually a smart move. Well, yeah, sure, it's a smart move for Dany. I just don't think in this show you're going to get it much more.
What someone brought up, and I didn't mind this idea, is Dario kind of pulling a Hail Mary pass.
Coming back.
And being like, yo, second sons, let's save my queen. Because he's still low-key in love with, not fully in love with Dany, but somewhat in love with Dany.
Here's the thing. I got to wonder if he's over there in Essos and he's getting updates in the newspaper on his, his Palm Trio because tech hasn't caught up over there. He has no iPhones. And he's like, there's got to be some investment. And I know, and like Rachel had a good point last week about, she wanted to see Night King or Winter truly come south. And I've always, we've questioned a lot about what's going on in Esso and a Shy by the Shadow. There's talks of this. That's a lot of prophecy and a lot of stuff. We're probably not going to get on the show. So I wonder what what would he do if like my queen's in trouble? If he found out specifically she's lost 2 dragons, her army's depleted,
and they're right outside King's Landing, I'd go straight to King's Landing.
He'd go there.
Yeah.
Plus that old guy Jorah's dead.
Oh, perfect.
He's out of my way.
Yeah.
Never was a problem. Yeah, I think Dario would show up.
Yeah, I mean, that's a stretch, but still. I don't know if there's anything else I missed. The only other thing would probably be a little bit of the logic leaps if I'm speaking for the fans who weren't too happy. Mm-hmm. Dany being outside, offering Cersei her give me, this is the last warning kind of thing, kind of threw me off. I didn't care for it.
Meaning that you thought they would have just launched those scorpions down at her?
100%.
Because I would have.
100%.
I would have done that.
Look outside your walls and you see your one enemy and the brother you think is going to destroy everyone and a dragon, and you have dozens of scorpions lined up. Am I going to hear them out, or am I just going to be like, fire? I'm going to scream, fire, loose, and just destroy them then and there.
Knock.
Look at Jaime at the battle of loot train battle.
Yeah.
Where he just went for it. He's like, you know what? If I kill her, it's over.
It's over.
Cersei could have done the same thing.
Yeah.
And Dany, I don't know what Dany was thinking.
Standing
right in front of the arrows and being like, hey, I know you got hundreds of arrows pointing at me, but don't do it because I'm here to offer you your life. Yeah. How does she think that she has the upper edge in that situation? I don't know. That threw me off.
No, I'm not. I totally understand because I had that thought
doesn't have the upper hand in that. She thinks she does, but I was like,
she thinks she does.
You have 20 Unsullied behind you,
and a dragon that's in the background,
and a dragon that's like kind of scared. He lost his brother.
I lost my brother. No,
but that's kind of my final thoughts. And I'm curious to see where this is going. For sure.
Look, man, I don't know where it's going right now.
I don't know either.
And
I mean, I have ideas, but
yeah, and there's a lot, and it all ends with Jon and Ghost going to Lands of Always Winter to the retirement apartment. That's how this show ends. Andres and I just locked that in right now.
100%, man, and I will cry tears of joy.
I will too. Well, no matter what happens, we know people are going to have opinions of it, and I love that, and I want to make that clear. I love passionate opinions about this show. I love different perspectives. I love learning it, and I hope you all listening today enjoyed Ace and I talking about it, and I thought we got as honest as we could at times on some things, and Game of Thrones has always been a thought starter and a thought provoker, and sometimes jabs a spear in the side, and I think that's okay. I always believe storytelling should not worry about making you feel comfortable, but also every once in a while should give you an ice cream and make you feel okay. So that is where we're at right now. We absolutely miss Lon Harris and Rachel Cushing. They just couldn't get here tonight. We're so sorry. They'll be back next week. Schedule permitting, real life gets in place, but we got 2 episodes left, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it. It's unbelievable to me. It's surreal that we're coming around the corner here, but I could not do this show. In fact, he inspired me, man. I was depressed, not sure if I wanted to even talk about this show at the top, and it's me being very honest with you. But I love talking with Andrews Cabrera, and I think it's, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's anime, where I just nod because I don't fully understand, or movies or life in general, sir, you're one of the best out there. You're an untapped talent, which upsets me. So if you're out there and you have a show and you're local and you're producing it, like, get this guy on your show to talk Star Wars or something else, because you are really good at this.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
And you're smart cookie, and you know terms that I don't know because I'm old and I'm broken. Tell them where they can find you, though, because you do have stuff out there.
Yeah, find me on Twitter and Instagram at Squad Leader Ace, especially on Twitter, where I'm giving a lot of my takes on certain stuff, and on the Meaning of Podcast, where I talk about movies and directors. Last week we did an Avengers Endgame debate with RB3. We talked about Infinity War and
debate,
Endgame.
huh? Okay.
Debate, as far as, because I'm Team Infinity War, he's Team Endgame.
Okay.
As far as a better movie, RB3 is not the biggest fan of Infinity War. I love the movie. So yeah, MCU, DC. I love DC. That's another one of my fandoms. Star Wars, whatever it is, come find me on the social medias.
Absolutely. Please do give them a follow. Don't forget to follow Rachel Cushing and Lon Harris on Twitter as well. They'll be back next week. And follow me at Ken Napzok. And that includes going to kennapzok.com, an updated website where you can find links to purchase my book, Why We Love Star Wars, The Great Moments That Built a Galaxy Far, Far Away, from Mango Publishing. It's supposed to be released about May 15th. It's been a weird but positive slight delay on the book. Might be a couple days, but things are going good. So check it out if you're a Star Wars fan. And I appreciate you all listening here and being part of a good, productive conversation on Casterly Talk in this era where sometimes conversations aren't as productive. That is it. We'll see you all next week when we start figuring out how this is all going to end.